Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about factoring quadratics. I've got a several part series on this. It's going to be a 3-part series. So previously on my videos, we were talking about greatest common factors, and that's very important. It's understanding factoring things out. So factoring quadratics. Now, this is also known, what we're going to talk about is trinomials. Tri means 3. So the first part of this, we're going to look at the quadratic when it's ax squared plus bx plus c. And the a in this case is 1. That means there's not any number in front of x squared. It's going to be leading right now with x squared. So my first example, I'm going to use x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now, what I like to teach all of my students is understanding that really there's an a here in front of the x squared, it's 1. So technically what we need to do is you take 1, your a times your c. This is the method a times the c. In this case you would get 10 because a is 1 and c right here is 10. Okay? But since it's an understood 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just break down the 10. And you can break it down into 1 and 10 times 10 or 2 times 5. Now, what we need to do is we need to come up with a 7. So basically what we're doing is we're reversing the FOIL method. So our answer is going to look like something like this right here. And we need to fill in the rest of the blanks. So, what I know is, to get 7, I know 2 and 5 gives me 7 by adding them. Now, since this is a positive, it's a plus 10, that means both in my parentheses is either going to be a positive positive, so it's going to be a positive positive, or negative negative, depending on this 7 right here that I've got underlined twice. And since that's a plus, that's going to be plus and 2 and 5. Now, this would be my answer. Now, to check to see if I've did this correctly, you could say x plus 2, x plus 5. It does not matter the order. And then FOIL it. That's x squared, x times 5 is 5x, go under, 2 times x is 2x, go under again, 2 times 5 is 10, 5x and 2x, x squared plus 7x plus 10. So the key to this is factoring the 10 out to get the middle term, the 7x, and since this sign is positive, that I know it's the middle has to be, it's going to be plus plus or minus minus. In this case, it's a positive. So that's why it's x plus 2, x plus 5. Now I'm going to use the same type of example. I'm just switching the signs around. The same setup. Factors of 10 is still 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. Now, notice this. I've got a negative 7. So that means 2 and 5, I can get that negative 7. 1 and 10, I cannot. So the 2 and the 5 can get it, and both of them have to be negative. X minus 2, x minus 5, because a negative 2 and a negative 5 gives me that negative 7. X squared minus 3x minus 10. I'm still using my factors. 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Now, this is a little different because if this is a minus, that means we're looking at a plus minus or a minus plus. That's what we're looking for. So I know starting off, I'm going to have an x minus, x plus. It doesn't matter the order. So now, when you see this minus 10, that means we're going to subtract the two factors. So which two factors can subtract to get negative 3? Well, 1 and 10 does not. 1 and 10, if you subtract, can get 9 or negative 9. But 2 and 5, we can. So now the key is which one is positive, which one is negative. Well, if we make that a negative 5 plus 2 gives me that negative 3. So the negative 5 and a positive 2. And you can always FOIL these out, like I said before in our first one, to check to make sure we've factored these out. Number 4, this time I'm going to use the positive end of 3x minus 10. So 1 and 10, 2 and 5. So since this is a minus 10, I still know that it's going to be x minus something, x plus something. So which two can we subtract to give us a positive 3? Well, it's 5 and a 2. So in this case, the 5 has to be positive because 5 minus 2 gives me a positive 3. X squared minus x minus 12. So in this case, since I got a minus 12 here, I know right off the bat that one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. So now I need to find out the factors. The factors to give me a minus x or a minus 1. So let's do 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So since this is a minus right here, that means I'm going to subtract them. Well, 12 minus 1 or 1 minus 12 does not give me a negative 1. Same thing with 2 and 6. That gives me either a 4 or a negative 4. Well, let's look at 3 and 4. So the difference in there can be a negative 1. And to get a negative 1, that 4 has to be the negative and the 3 has to be a positive. Because negative 4 plus 3 gives me that negative 1. Now on this, I'm looking at my plus 20. Since this is a plus, that means my answers can be two positive or two negatives, which in this case, that we treat that as a negative. So I know that this is going to be x minus, x minus. So now I need to break down the 20 to 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. And which one can give you, by adding them up, a negative 9? Well, the 1 and 20 doesn't, the 2 and 10 doesn't, the 4 and 5, it does. So finally, it's 4 and 5 that goes right here. So it's x minus 4, x minus 5. The order does not matter. It could be x minus 5, x minus 4. Now you will probably see a problem just like this one. The 5 breaks down just to 1 and 5. Now, can we since this is positive, can we add 1 and 5 to give us that magic number 10 right here? The answer is no. So we call this prime or not factorable. And finally, they like to combine this factor with using also greatest common factors to make sure we understand how to use both. So, in this case, what I'm looking at is what number do I have in common? Well, this 2 is my least number. 2 can go into each one. 2 can go into 14. 2 can go into 24. So I know my factor is 2, but look at my x. I look at it, I have my least goes with the 24x. So I know they have one x in common. So now I pull the 2 from this 2. I don't have anything, but I pull an x from the x to the third and I get x squared. 2 goes into 14 right here 7 times, so it's plus 7. I'm pulling 1x from x squared, it gives me x. And finally 2 goes into, since that's a plus there, I'm going to put plus. 2 goes into 24 12 times. And I'm pulling out my x, so I don't need it anymore. Now, the common mistake is we're finished. Well, what you also have to take in consideration is, can we break down this 12 and factor this out? Well, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and then finally 3 times 4. The 3 and the 4, if you add them together, because that 12 is a plus 12, gives you a plus 7. So the answer that we're looking for in this case would be 2x, x, x. Since this is a plus 12 and that's a plus 7, that's plus plus. My factors are 3 and 4 to give me the 7. So this is what we're looking for. And also, one other note is if I ask you to factor this out and tell me the greatest common factor, this 2x is the greatest common factor. Okay, be looking at my Factoring Quadratics Part 2 that's coming up next. Thank you very much.